everybody, how's it going? It's a Daily Shooter, and today we're going to be doing a penetration test and comparison between 223 and 300 Blackout. We're not going to be doing it at 10 feet, 15 feet, or 50 feet. We're going to be doing it at 100 yards. So we're going to see how much penetration we'll get out of a standard 55 grain full metal jacket 223 and a standard 124 grain full metal jacket 300 Blackout. And at the end, we'll top it off with a little 338 Lapua. Okay, so let me start by showing you my setup, and I do want to say, obviously, this is not a scientific test at all. All the pieces of wood that we're going to be shooting through here came from one board, so there's going to be a lot of density changes. There could also be some knots that are in the way, things like that. This is just going to be for fun to see how much penetration we get out of the 223 and then just kind of compare it to the 300 Blackout. We have 12 boards here. Each one is 2 inches thick, so we have a total of 24 inches of wood. And I'm going to try and place my two shots as center as possible, one on top of the other, so that we can actually see the trails or the tracks of the 223 and the 300 Blackout. So this is the setup out at 100 yards. Now let's go ahead and check out the firearms that I'm going to be using. Both of these are my builds, built with 80% lowers, and basically all the parts that I got for these rifles are from MSRarms.com. So if there's anything that you see here that you like, go over to MSRarms.com. You can actually click on my logo and see information from these previous builds. Now, the bottom one is going to be the 300 Blackout. I have a primary arms 1:6 scope on that with the ACSS reticle. It's a 16-inch barrel. And that's one thing I wanted to kind of bring to your attention because it's a 16-inch barrel. The 300 Blackout, I think, was really designed for a 10-inch barrel. So it has a little bit of an advantage having that 16-inch barrel. Even if it's only about 200 feet per second, that's still 200 feet per second. And that's why I decided to go with an 18-inch 223 Wild for the 223 shot, okay? Because you're getting a little bit of extra velocity out of the 300. We're going to get a little bit of extra velocity out of the 223. Going to be using American Eagle standard 55 grain full metal jacket. And for the 300 Blackout, it's going to be Cellar and Bellet 124 grain full metal jacket. And the reason that I chose these two rounds is because I think they're pretty common standard rounds for both calibers. I want to try and keep this as fair as possible. So 55 grain full metal jacket, pretty standard, everybody shoots that. And for supersonic 300 Blackout, you're looking around 120, 124 grains. Again, full metal jacket, so we don't have any differences there. Okay, now let's go ahead and take our shots. The first shot's going to be the 300 Blackout, and I'm going to be aiming at the center bottom of the boards. Now our 223, this is going to be in the center of the boards. I'm going to be aiming for the top. All right, so let's go ahead and check out our results. Here we have the 223, and on the bottom we have our 300 Blackout, and you can actually see the different size in the holes. We have basically a 22 caliber, and then on the lower one is a 30 caliber. And I think you guys are going to be really surprised at the results because what happened was, as we take off the boards here, you can kind of see the holes as they go through, and they're both pretty much the same in the very beginning. They hold their shape just fine. But as we go through the boards, you'll notice that the 223 actually starts to break apart. And it's really interesting because the holes actually get larger for the 223 than they do the 300 Blackout. The hole in the top starts getting bigger and bigger, where the hole on the bottom kind of remains just a standard 30 caliber hole. Because on the top, as the 223 starts to kind of crush under its own pressure, it starts to lose some of the jacket, and you can see some of the gray right there. The 300 Blackout's still going. And I'm just really getting surprised at this point because it seems like the 223 is losing a lot of its energy while the large projectile of the 300 Blackout is just continuing on in its same shape. So here we're at about, I think, 9 boards or something like that. Both are still going through, but look at that top hole where the 223 went through. It's just so much bigger, where the 300 Blackout, still same deal. So it looks like this is where we stop with the 223. There is no pass-through right there. You can see no pass-through, but we do have pass-through for the 300 Blackout. Still going, 300 Blackout, all the way through that last piece. And I honestly thought that's where it stopped, but it turns out it shed most of the jacket. And then part of the core of the projectile for the 300 Blackout, and that's kind of why I'm showing you over and over. I thought that's where it stopped. So I look at the last piece, and sure enough, the 300 Blackout went through almost part of a knot right there and did go out the last board. So basically what we had is 10 boards, and into the 10th board, the 223 stopped. But the 300 Blackout, even through the knot, went through the whole thing. So if you guessed it would pass through all 24 inches at 100 yards, Then you were right. Now we're going to go ahead just for fun and move on to the 338 Lapua. There was a gentleman there. His name is Jose. He was kind enough to go ahead and take a shot at our boards here and see what the difference would be with the 338 Lapua. And let me tell you, that thing is a beast.
I think you hit it.
Yeah, I think so.
Now, here's what really surprised us. I mean, you could see the size of the wound channel on this thing. I mean, it's kind of hard to say wound channel through wood, but still, you could see where the devastation was through that. But what really kind of caught us both by surprise was he hit sort of in the middle of the wood, and then it kind of curved over to the left. And even though it created a ton of damage, it actually stopped right there on the end of the 9th board. And you could see that the projectile is actually still right there. We have the 338 round, which is just completely squished. Sorry, it's a little out of frame right there. I was looking at it with my own eyes. And we were both kind of surprised that it stopped on the 9th board. It did curve, and I looked. It didn't seem like it hit any knots. It just, the way that it squished, the way that it devastated was just really intense. And there's the entire 338 projectile right there. So really interesting results. I mean, that 300 Blackout at 100 yards went through all 24 inches, and the 338 Lapua didn't, and the 223 didn't. Now, I think the 338 probably hit a knot or something. Even though I didn't see the knot, that's probably what happened, because that's a devastating round. I mean, check out the difference. This is a 223 channel in the wood, and then this is the 338 channel through the wood. So you could see that even if it didn't penetrate the entire thing, the amount of devastation that 338 created is just absolutely amazing. And the same with the 300 Blackout. The 300 Blackout pretty much put the same channel through that the 223 did, but in kind of a 30 caliber hole. So you can see right there that as we kind of go back through a little bit more of the footage of the wood, that I think that's pretty much what happened. It's just that the 300 Blackout seems to have retained more of its mass as it went through the wood. It didn't shed any of its weight as it was traveling, so it allowed it to keep that that momentum as it was traveling through there the entire way through the wood, whereas the 223 started to squish, started to change shape. It seems like it maybe even started to tumble a little bit through the wood, and that's what created the stoppage at before actually exiting the last piece of wood. So really interesting results, but I gotta tell you, man, 300 Blackout, 100 yards, that stuff's no joke, you know. That's why it's so good for hog hunting and other things like that. It's definitely expensive to shoot, but it's a pretty cool round. So if you're interested in any of these firearms or any of the parts that you saw, check out msrarms.com. And I want to give a big shout out and thanks to Ammo Squared for providing the ammunition for this. Everybody, please, if you wouldn't mind, like, subscribe, and have a great day.